who's got himself a pretty decent little win streak now, only one loss in his career, two-time All-American from Oregon State. And Colby's been saying, I'm looking past Maia and I'm getting to Tyron Woodley. And not just that, but he's been talking trash on the country of Brazil, the Brazilians that inhabit it, the rest of the division, etc. And so he got the win. Let's be honest. He beat the crap out of Damian Maia, really put a licking on him, bloody, bruised, gassed out Damian Maia, and Colby put the hurting on him. And then after the fight, Miesha, your response.
Oh, why doesn't he tell us how he really feels? I feel like he held back.
Holding it in a little bit. He's kind of a nervous Nelly.
Yeah, I don't know. I never went that route with my strategy or career, so I can't quite wrap my head around it. I mean, I like a little bit of trash talk here and there, but at the same time, like, maybe putting like a whole country down, I don't know. Like, I guess Conor kind of did that too, but it was always like funny. It was always humorous. So I think there's this Conor McGregor era that's going on right now, and everyone's trying on their trash talking shoes and trying to see which ones fit. And so we're seeing a lot of people play with the trash talking right now. I personally don't enjoy putting down like a whole people or country as a whole, but I do like Colby Covington's trash talk towards his opponents and future opponents, because that makes sense. I mean, it's like, hey, that's who you're targeting. Like, yeah, say whatever you want. You're going to get to glove up and fight him. So I do enjoy that aspect, but he might want to dial it back a little bit as far as Brazil goes. I've been to Brazil. It's not a whatever he said.
Not a group of people you want to piss off, too. So after he said that, security basically just grabs him, about 10 security, get him out of the tunnel as Brazilians are just throwing cans and cups and trash and just crowds of booze. He was basically in like security lockdown for the rest of his time there. My big thing is, when you're cage fighting, right, and I obviously don't have to tell you this, Miesha, but when you're in a professional mixed martial arts contest, when you're inside of a cage or a ring and it's just you and another person who's spent a lot of time of their life learning how to give you concussions, learning how to choke you unconscious, learning how to break your arms or hit you in the liver so hard where it stops working for a second. When you're in that environment, you're doing the most violent, most awesome competitive thing you can do. I love cage fighting. It's awesome.
Legally.
But yeah, because the stakes are so high, right? I don't see how you could watch that. You can watch someone get the crap beat out of him, especially that fight that was bloody and like you almost felt bad for him at the end because he was just rolling around with like no recourse. How can you watch that and say, oh, that's great, that's awesome, and then hear someone's words after and be offended? Like, maybe that's just how society is going these days, but after what Colby Covington just did with his fists to Damian Maia, how could someone's words bother you after watching that bloodbath he just put on there? Like, the 10,000 worst things I can think to say to Alex isn't as bad as a punch I can throw to his face. Like, that, they're just two completely different universes as far as repercussions. So
yeah, well, I think the thing was though, RJ, is that they were like the fans probably will accept. I've seen the fans cheer "You're gonna die" to the person who's going to be fighting their home Brazilian. But after the fight, I've also heard them cheer even when they beat the Brazilian, because they do understand at the end of the day their job is a sport. But when you turn it on the crowd and start talking crap to the fans who paid to come and watch the fight, I think they have a right to get pissed.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the Brazilians in there were I mean, that was Colby Covington's goal, that he accomplished that goal. The Brazilians are there to cheer on the people that they want to see win and boo the people that they want to see lose. I mean, that's not unlike any other sport in America, right? Like, I also never understood this snobby, oftentimes like MMA media mentality of like booing anything in a fight is bad. It's like, have you ever been to a professional sport, a game of any kind in America? The home crowd cheers their guys and they boo the other guys. Like, if there's a holding penalty in the NFL and it's against the home team, it could be the most blatant, illegal, no questions asked penalty, And the home crowd's still going to boo when they get called for it because that's what they're there to do. They paid for a ticket. Part of the fun is cheering and booing. So I'm not even mad at the Brazilians. Like, this isn't even a knock on the Brazilians. But for people whose response was, oh, man, Colby Covington really owes them apology. Oh, Colby Covington really out of line. I'm really offended by the words that came out of his mouth. Never mind the fact that he'll be scraping the Damian Maia's blood out of his nostrils and ears for the next week because he beat his ass so bad. Like, that's why I'm so attracted to combat sports and MMA specifically, is because this PC world and everyone's feelings world, and you can't, don't say anything offensive to anybody ever world. It's supposed to be gone in combat sports because this is that's what it is. It's violence, it's fighting, it's trash talk. This is our escape from that world. So maybe I'm over-exaggerating this a little bit too much, Miesha, but when I'm watching someone get the shit kicked out of them, and then the guy who did that trash talk talks into a mic, and everyone's mad about what he said into a mic and not what he did to another human being, I feel like we're just way desensitized to what we're seeing in that cage, or our priorities are way too off. The fight.
So what are you reading when you hear TJ's interviews and stuff now?
What am I?
Like, what do you read? Because you said you read Dominic Cruz and his interviews leading up, and how you're like, all right, I know what's going on. I'm not watching him fight. I'm just watching his interviews and getting his mentality. What's TJ doing now?
Manipulation. He's getting manipulated. He's getting
by who?
The people around him.
Oh, really?
They want to say that he's the best thing. And he has to have those people around him. I have people
like yes men kind of.
Yes, yes men. Yes,
okay.
Like, I have people around me that keep it real. It's saying like, hey, you were shit today in practice. You got to pick it up, or you just little things. I like that because it's. I mean, the truth is, when you step inside the octagon, no one's just gonna. You don't have yes men around you the whole time because that guy's not trying to be your friend. He's trying to take your head off. So yeah, I just see a lot of insecurities with TJ. He wants us to go out there and say he's gonna do this and say he's gonna show me who the alpha male is, but he knows that. Like I said, like he hit his stride when I was out there. He was the world champion, and I was 1-0. I was a 21-year-old kid that just came out there on literally. I actually had an 11-month layoff too. It's crazy. Both kind of my injuries have held me out 11 months. I had broken my hand in my pro debut and had to get surgery on it, and then I had a symptom of vertigo from so many concussions that I had to go to UPMC with Dr. Collins and work on the vestibular therapy, and that really helped me out. So I was 11 months out, and I came out, no training, no sparring. I just was like, you know what? I've already wasted almost a year of my career. I just turned pro, so I was super excited to really just knock these fights out and get into the UFC. I'm gonna go out and take my talents out to Team Alpha Male and see how well I do with some of the best fighters in the world. And that's another thing that gave me the supreme confidence was TJ Dillashaw, was going with him and knowing that he was at his pinnacle, the highest you can be. He was the champion at the time, and knowing that I had so much to learn. I was 1-0 at a year layoff, and that's what ultimately gave me the confidence to keep grinding. I was like, keep pushing, and you're almost there. And I was able to get the fights. Every fight I would save my money and fly back and leave out of my suitcase and have another fight lined up 5 weeks later and save up my money, come back until I was able to finally move out before my UFC debut. For about 2 months I was there before I got signed to the UFC. So that, I'm actually thankful for TJ. He gave me the most confidence, supreme confidence to really hunker down and stay focused and motivated, because he was the world champion. I know how well I was doing with him, and this is a couple years ago. This is 10 fights ago. I'm not saying that he hasn't gotten better, because he's a competitor and he has gotten better, and so have I. But I don't think he's gotten as good as I've gotten, and he was never the fighter that I was. Like he said, he once in an interview he brought up athlete versus fighter. Cody's just a fighter; he's not an athlete. But we're not trying to win. That's the thing. Like, I don't go in there and try to win a ribbon, a participation award. TJ in his last few fights literally just goes out there and fights safe because he wants to get back to the title shot and wants to get back to the title picture. He hasn't, he went from knocking people out in the 4th and 5th round to not even knocking anyone on their ass in 2016. Never even dropped anybody.
Yeah.
That's